everyone, and welcome to the Propcast. My name is Louisa Dickens, co-founder of Ella Mulry and board director of the UKPA, and I shall be your weekly host. Each week for 30 minutes, we'll be connecting the VCs, prop tech startups, and real estate professionals globally, and assist in bridging that famous communication gap we all love talking about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Propcast. Today we're fortunate enough to be joined by the one and only Michael Beckerman and Gary Chimwa.
Pleasure to be with you, my friend. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us indeed.
Today's topic is on collaborations and acquisitions and looking at the future of the event space. Listeners, a bit of background to Michael and Gary. So Michael is the CEO of Cretech and Future PropTech now, the largest global consulting, media and conference company devoted to technological innovation in the real estate sector. Cretech's mission is to help the industry embrace, adopt and future-proof their businesses. Cretech's intelligence and event platform inspires the next generation of ideas, processes, and people to champion the world's largest asset class. Michael began his entry into commercial real estate tech in 2012 with the launch of the News Funnel, a customized news platform, and subsequently launched a digital marketing agency for the commercial real estate industry, Atypical. Prior to that, Michael spent 25 years in the public relations industry, having built Beckerman Public Relations into the largest firm in the industry, specializing in commercial real estate. Now, Gary is a founder and managing director of Future PropTech, which is the world's #1 PropTech event. Future PropTech is well established as the leading and most well-attended event dedicated to technology, innovation, and digital transformation occurring in the wider real estate sector. But as of 2019, they were acquired by the News Funnel, thereby merging the Cretech to become the largest global platform focused on reimagining real estate, which is an incredible acquisition. And I just want to say welcome to Michael from New York City and obviously Gary from London. How are you both today?
Wonderful, Louisa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to join your podcast, which I'm a big fan of.
And Gary, yeah, welcome. We're so happy to have you both on the show. It seems honestly like, when was it when we got together? Michael, you flew over. Gary, you hosted obviously drinks when we were all in the city celebrating the sort of acquisition with a range of the other prop tech community. It seems like way too long ago. So
it does. It feels like another lifetime ago, doesn't it? And I had the pleasure of seeing you in New York before the pandemic hit as well. It was wonderful to reconnect.
Yeah. Before we kickstart, guys, I thought we'd have a few warm-up questions. So, Gary, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to fire 3 questions at you. Just go with it. Okay. Favorite snack?
Ooh. Toast.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
Favorite drink?
I'll say beer.
Yeah, I love that. Michael, I think we all know what your favorite drink is.
Wow, it's really becoming quite apparent that people know I love tequila, isn't it?
Michael, what would you say your biggest strength is?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. My biggest strength, I would hope that somebody would say empathy.
Yep. Okay, now your biggest weakness.
Empathy.
Love that. Okay, bro. Well, look, Gary and Michael, I think we're ready to start the questions. And I think everyone wants to obviously hear about Michael, you can kickstart this, but how did this collaboration between the two of you come about? You know, when did you first meet? What was the whole idea behind it?
Well, so, we had been building Cretech for a couple of years. And of course, our core mission was to help the real estate industry discover, adopt, embrace technology and innovation. And as we were building it in the US, we were, of course, paying attention to what other parts of the world were also following the same mission. And, the majority of everybody that we would connect with, was very friendly and open book and very transparent. We would compare notes. And I guess because the US was a little bit further out front than other countries, we would just continue to have discussions about what's working with us, what's not working, lessons learned, et cetera. And as I started to just sort of survey the entire global landscape for similar companies. I mean, Gary's was the head of the class by far.
Yeah.
And so, we reached out, we connected, and I'd been to a couple of his events and heard great things. And we just had so much in common too. The themes were the same. The platforms were the same. The core integrity was the same. And so, we just started talking and collaborating. And then, of course, as in my entire career, I'm usually the one that makes the first move. So I made the move and said to Gary, we should really join forces. And it worked out fantastically. It's exceeded all expectations. But, we've been talking for a few years, and just around 2019 really started to put the pieces together. And then we're able to close on our transaction fourth quarter for us. So December, I believe, 2019.
Yeah. Gary, when Michael sort of made the move, how you must have been so excited.
No, he wouldn't give me the time of the day. Are you kidding me? I had to stalk him.
Oh my God, stop. Well, that's classic
I wish
Brits,
it was so
isn't
easy. I wish it was so easy. Man, I had to pursue him for years.
I actually remember.
He relented.
I actually remember it very differently. As Mike said, we had been talking for a while, and we had such a shared vision, and so many sort of contacts in common. Everyone I spoke to was talking about him, and he was kind enough to just, start helping out and introducing me to sort of influential people within his network, and I was the same. So that's how it kind of started, I think, very organic, very, very much a case of him helping me out, and myself trying to help him out as much as possible, with small things, and we just managed to build quite a good relationship. And I think it's so important with these things when you're collaborating with people, to first of all work with people that you like and respect, that you have a shared vision with, but also that you can just reciprocate without any sort of strings attached.
Yeah.
And then let it just sort of naturally progress. And I think that's really what happened. So, after a few sort of, maybe even a couple of years of just sort of helping each other out, Mike obviously then said, look, let's do this in a more formal way. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Let's talk business, let's cut to the chase.
Yeah.
And then it all happened really quickly within like a 2-3 month period. We got the lawyers involved, got the teams involved. And I think we were both very pleased to just get it going and get it closed. Just before end of 2019. So I think it was really great timing as well, because obviously the landscape's really changed in, coming into 2020. But, I think we found sort of great strength in our respective teams to just sort of pivot and focus on new challenges, but the vision remains the same. In fact, we think that there is even more opportunity now that, we feel that these things that we've been talking about for years are now going to get accelerated. So, I think we both feel it's a really exciting time now.
Yeah, I think, the general sort of consensus and what I heard of your sort of collaboration was everyone was like, brilliant. I think because lots of people want to, just Americans, the US, how you do events is sort of obviously on a bigger and larger scale, and what we can obviously take from that. But also it's like all these prop techs globally sort of connecting, it can only sort of mean like, I guess, good things. For when you say sort of it's obviously accelerated during these times, what are the main things that's accelerated, I guess, the growth of this sort of sector and the event space particularly? Gary?
Yeah, so I think that the obvious one from the events perspective is that, social distancing rules are there for obvious reasons, for everyone's health and safety. So it just won't be possible to do events like how we all know and enjoy. Everything digital, which is fine because, there's a lot of advantages to that. For example, you can connect from anywhere in the world. It's obviously better for the planet. You can have a lot more content. So, that in itself has got a lot of advantages. But, ultimately, people are social beings and we'll all need to connect and shake hands. And we all hope to be able to do that very soon. Yeah. But in the meantime, digital does offer some great alternatives, which will be focusing on for the rest of 2020, making sure that, we still keep people engaged. We still bring great content to our audience. And we still continue to sort of, focus on our vision and our mission, which is to just help the industry adapt to changing times and improve and come out bigger, better, and stronger.
Yeah.
So we feel very strongly that digital is the digital channels will still offer, a really good opportunity that way.
Yeah. Michael, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I would just add to what Gary's saying, Louisa, that, I think previously we were all really, really ecstatic about the number of startups that had emerged on the scene. At one time, I think we counted or collaborated with our friends at MIT and found that there were like 7,000 or something like that globally.
Crazy.
The amount of money that had come into the ecosystem was extraordinary just over the last couple of years. And our conferences, of course, we were doubling in size every year in terms of attendance and scale. The last one that we had done in Brooklyn, it went well over 2,000 people.
That's a good event, Michael. I think that was
Thank
one of the best events I've been to.
Thank you for all your support. But I think those of us that, like you and Gary, of course, that were really immersed in the ecosystem knew that adoption was still lagging, even though all these great numbers, enthusiasm, and buzz was happening in the marketplace. So I think, just moving into the pandemic now, what's really happened is one of the impacts has been on the real estate industry that they have to drive innovation with a greater sense of urgency. So I do feel that now in this horrific environment, I mean, it's horrible on a human scale, on an economic scale, but in the real estate industry, they're really being forced now to give a much, much more serious look at innovation and technology because their buildings, their operations were not ready for this environment. Most companies weren't, but I think particularly real estate. So there's a whole host of technologies that now are really getting the sense of urgency to be adopted, whether it's building access or whether it's the way that spaces are monitored in terms of usage and people flow. I mean, all the way through to how companies manage their own assets, portfolios, et cetera, et cetera. There's just such an emphasis now on adoption. So I wish it were for different purposes, but we're seeing now more landlords, more brokerages, more asset managers come into the fold than ever before. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to look at and see that this was a historic time for mostly for bad reasons, but in our sector, I think it's going to accelerate adoption.
Yeah. No, that's definitely what I've sort of been hearing. And it seems like things are sort of definitely picking up and I feel like there was optimism going around. So I think people are excited if we're just focusing on the business side over the next sort of like few months, when people start resuming, going sort of back to work, whatever that sort of means. But like business seems to be picking up, sales and certain loads of sort of virtual realities and different sort of platforms. I've spoken to a business called sort of Onsite IQ, which is like Zooms for construction sites. And I think they've definitely seen sort of growth and uptake. And it's just really nice that people have finally seen an uptake, when you're constantly sort of pitching to businesses and they're like, they never give you a full no when you're selling a product. And now people are saying, you know what? Yeah, let's take this pilot into something more serious. Would you say, so between, to the US market and the UK market, in terms of events, what's the big difference that the public sort of cry out for? Like, Michael, have you seen a difference of, why do people mostly go to Cretech, and compare it to sort of, why do the Brits go to Future Prop Tech? Are people there to sort of obviously learn about, I guess, new sort of information products in the market? Are people there to sort of connect people? What's the main driver behind people attending your events? Like, what differentiates it?
That's a great question, Louisa. I think on our end, what we've really, really tried to be very disciplined about is curating great content. And if you're on a stage at Cretech, you really had to pass the muster to get on that stage. You really have to be somebody that's got great gravitas and knowledge about the topics that we're talking about. And so you wouldn't see a lot of self-promotion or a lot of pitching. You would see people that really were leading the way. So when you look at all the brands that were on stage, whether it's, the Avalon Bay or Brookfield or Prologis or Boston Properties, CBRE, the JLLs, et cetera, et cetera, you had the highest echelon of the highest caliber professionals speaking. And I think, and then we also learned, and Gary helped with this a lot, was to bifurcate the content side from the actual trade show side. And on the trade show side, you had just wonderful, wonderful technologies and entrepreneurs that were on display that people were just buzzing around. So, and then we worked really, really hard. We used an app called Braille, which
I love Braille. I honestly, I think I
filled it. So
it's incredible. I think I set up like 20, whoever's listening, it was amazing. Obviously I run a prop tech recruitment firm, and I set up 20 meetings with early and late stage startups and the VCs and people that wanted to learn about spaces, to connect with people. And it was incredible. At 15 minutes, everyone knows what you're there for. And it was brilliant.
Yeah. And thank you, my friend. And that was the third component. So we had great content, you had great exhibitors, and then you had an ability for people just to meet and connect. And we had all these zones, and we bifurcated all of those different areas. So over a couple of days, what we wanted to make sure was when you showed up at one of our conferences, that there was an ROI for you, that you took away some kind of business that you wanted, either, like you said, a connection or knowledge, or if you were a startup, a technology company that was displaying your products and services, you got business. So I think it was all of that, which is making sure the audience was the right audience based on what people wanted to get out of the conference. And we saw the same thing with Gary, exactly the same thing. And again, I learned a lot from just participating and speaking at his and walking the floor. And, it was the same kind of DNA.
Is it quite difficult to get the right balance between, say, whether you're getting the startups, say the VCs, the landlords, the real estate guys? Is it really, how do you attract all of them to one event? It must be so difficult finding that sort of balance.
You're really, you're an expert at this. So I don't, I'm not telling you something you don't know, but what we worked really, really hard on at Cretech and also Future Prop, the same thing, was building this community. So when the community, years ago, it was literally dozens of people, and then it got to about 10,000, and then it got to about 50,000, and now collectively we're well over 100,000 professionals. And you just take the time to talk to people and you help them. So, I'm connecting on a daily basis with the heads of innovation of a construction company or a big landlord or a brokerage firm. And the same thing on the startups and professionals like yourself. You want the law firms there. You want the investment bankers there. You want everybody from all walks of life. And one of the things that I've been doing really interesting for me is sort of now stepping outside of the real estate world and into other sectors, such as big tech companies or fintech companies that are now looking at our industry and wanting to come in. So it's just a fascinating journey, but it's all about community building. What do you say, Gary?
Absolutely. As you rightly said, it's a really big ecosystem. Real estate in itself is obviously what the world's largest asset class, and we've kind of gone through the cycle of technology and innovation being viewed as like a ticking box or like a nice to have thing on the side, to now obviously where the whole world is changing and has to change very fast, and we all know technology is going to be a big part of that, so it's quite indispensable now. So it's been absolutely fascinating to see all the sort of different elements coming together. It's not just the VCs, they need the startups, they need, the recruiters and people that help them to get talent. They need the lawyers, they need, all the traditional guys to be the end customers. So it's this really massive ecosystem which just really comes together and obviously makes it what it is.
Yeah. And okay, so I believe you guys have some sort of exciting news about a potential event or conference which will be coming to us. Gary, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you have planned for the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are planning our very first global virtual summit, which will take place on 27th to 30th July 2020. So it's over 4 days. And our global summit is titled Reimagining Real Estate. So yeah, very excited to be doing that. It's going to be a digital first experience. So we have invested into a really great platform that allows people to hear great keynotes and actually interact quite easily with other attendees. So it won't replicate a physical event, but it's a very good digital first experience. It's not just a collection of Zoom presentations, with all due respect to the Zoom platform. And it doesn't always work well with in a setting of 20,000 people, which is what the dedicated platform is built for. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. The focus of the event over the 4 days is really content driven. And we think it's a great time to be really focusing on what reimagining real estate looks like.
Yeah.
Not just from the perspective of, going back to the office, but our entire lives have changed now. We all know that, you can be as productive, if not more productive, working from home. So companies will have to work harder to justify why they want employees to come back to the workplace. That means, they have to rethink how the office space looked, and therefore what their leases looked, and therefore how investors value them. And all these, this domino effects are going to happen. We're all talking about going back to the work safely. So health and safety is now paramount to every single company in the world. And then on a wider scale, it's all the cities and the communities we live in. They need to be better connected and serve people and be more human-centric than ever before. So that's what, reimagining real estate looks like to us. So it's very high level. And we've got a great roster of speakers that we're going to bring on board. A lot of the CEOs of leading real estate companies. I'll let Michael add more to that, but that's the quick overview. I'm really excited.
Sounds very exciting. Michael, take it away.
Thanks, Lisa. Well said, Gary. So, I look at this as not by default are we doing a virtual conference. I think this is going to be part of our core offerings forever now, because I'm so excited by it. When you go through the logistics of it, it's just a different structure for us also, and for the speakers. It's just an easier format to program because people don't have to travel. And some people, you can get extraordinary speakers a little bit more easily because their schedule's not so crazy, and just got to book time with them to virtually interview them. So I think you're going to see from us just an extraordinary caliber of C-suite speakers from around the world over the 4 days. I'm super, super, super excited by it. And I think, to Gary's point, we're rebranding and we're launching. We've already launched it, but we're launching a new website hopefully soon that's all about reimagining real estate. So it's less about quote unquote prop tech and less about specific technologies as it is. Let's talk to the real estate industry at large about adopting innovation as a culture. It's part of their company's DNA. It's part of their philosophy of how they hire, how they train, how they educate. And yes, you're going to use a lot of tools along the way, but let's just go higher and think bigger. So reimagining real estate is all about, like Gary said, it's everything. It's your core operations. It's your people that you hire. I mean, that's your world, Louisa. And you're great at it, to what your properties look like, because they're going to have to be rethought going forward. So super, super excited by it. And I know that we're going to do it every year going forward. It'll be the largest global virtual conference ever held. And we're really, really excited.
Well, it sounds like you guys have been extremely busy, which is good to hear. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the show, but once again, congratulations on the acquisition. I can't wait for the Global Virtual Summit as well in July. Before we go, how can our audience and listeners hear more about the summit and connect with you?
Well, for me, it's my email is michael@cretech.com. My team's going to kill me for making that out so available. but I do, enjoy conversations with people from around the world about this topic, and I'm always want to learn more. So, but for me, it's michael@cretech.com, and our website cretech.com as well. And we'll be making some announcements about the conferences and other exciting plans that are coming.
Awesome. And what I can do for everyone, I will put all the links to the websites and also when we get the details of the Global Virtual Summit. And so you can subscribe to them, you can get involved in the 4-day event. And once again, thank you so much, Michael and Gary, for coming on the podcast.
Hey, Louisa, thank you so much. And listen, thank you for all your support of our companies, of our industry. You know, everywhere we go, we see you and your team. And you're just a wonderful connector. You're a great resource, and you do really, really important work in the ecosystem. And we're just deeply appreciative of you and all that you and your colleagues do.
Oh, that means a lot. Yeah, that means that, well, it's love networking, excited about. I think it's really interesting the point you made about not calling it just prop tech. We sort of stray to built environment innovation, but you're completely right. It is about reimagining the world of real estate in the future. And there's so many components to it. It's not just about the technology. It's not just about the deep tech that's behind it. And that will make a very good idea for actually maybe our next podcast. But thank you again. And details to follow.
Thank you, my friend. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Propcast, and a big thanks to our special guests. Make sure you visit our website, www.nmre.co.uk, where you can subscribe to our show, or you'll find us on iTunes and Spotify, where all good content is found. Whilst you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or if you simply just spread the word. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday, and I'll catch you later.
You're listening to a Podcast Company podcast. This was made by Podcast Syndicator, where we help you go from start to grow to making money with your podcast. Let us help you share your message and your voice with the world. Reach out now, Jason at podcastsyndicator.com or Brett at podcastsyndicator.com to find out more. Thank you for listening, and do come back to hear nothing but the best podcasts.